Atlanta Motor Speedway, November 15th, 1992. An era ends and an era begins on the same half-mile of asphalt, in the same afternoon, in the same race. Richard Petty, 200 wins, 7 championships, the man who built NASCAR's first modern dynasty, climbs out of a stock car for the final time. Somewhere in the same field, starting near the back, a 21-year-old from Vallejo, California, is making his Cup Series debut. No family racing lineage from the Carolinas. No background on the short tracks that had produced nearly every champion the sport had ever crowned. His name is Jeff Gordon. Nobody in that garage fully understood it yet, but NASCAR had just watched its past and its future occupy the same racetrack for one single, overlapping afternoon. This is why Jeff Gordon never felt like any other driver who came before or after him. Jeff Gordon was born in Vallejo, California, on August 4th, 1971. His biological parents divorced when he was 6 months old. His stepfather, John Bickford, the man who actually raised him into a driver, bought him a BMX bicycle at 4 1/4 midget race car at 5. By 6, Gordon had already won 35 main events. He grew up racing at tracks across California with names that meant nothing to the Southern racing establishment: Rio Linda, Sunnyvale, Visalia, Pomona. He moved to Indiana as a teenager specifically to chase USAC competition, the open-wheel proving ground that had also produced names like Mario Andretti. By the time Rick Hendrick discovered him, watching a kid run an absurdly loose car around Atlanta Motor Speedway, certain the car was about to crash, stunned when it didn't, Gordon had already won a USAC Midget Championship and a Silver Crown title. None of that was the path NASCAR usually took. NASCAR's champions came from the Carolinas, from Virginia, from Alabama. Men who learned to drive on dirt bull rings within an hour of where they were born and carried a regional accent that announced exactly where they came from before they ever opened their mouths about racing itself. Gordon arrived with no accent at all, a California kid who happened to learn stock cars in Indiana. The garage did not quite know what to make of him. The contrast became visual before it became anything else. NASCAR's dominant aesthetic in the early 1990s belonged to men like Dale Earnhardt, Wrangler jeans, cowboy boots, a working-class Southern toughness that the sport's fan base recognized instantly and trusted completely. Gordon showed up looking like something else entirely: clean-cut, boyish, the kind of look that earned him the nickname Wonder Boy, not always affectionately, and made grown men in the garage joke about his khakis and penny loafers. His car matched the persona, the number 24 Hendrick Motorsports Chevrolet, painted in bright, multicolored livery that the garage nicknamed the Rainbow Warriors, looked nothing like the muted factory sponsor colors that dominated the rest of the field. It was loud in a sport that had built its identity on a very specific, very Southern kind of quiet toughness. His driving matched the look. Where Earnhardt bullied his way through traffic, bumpers touching, mirrors full of black paint, the Intimidator nickname earned one forced pass at a time. Gordon raced clean and surgical, sliding through gaps other drivers hadn't noticed were there. The instinct came directly from his open-wheel background. Midgets and sprint cars had taught him to find any available groove on a track and time a pass with a precision that didn't require contact to make a point. He won just as many races. He simply made far fewer enemies doing it. Detractors speculated openly about whether Gordon's success was authentic or simply the product of superior Hendrick equipment? The question followed him through his rookie struggles in 1993, a season defined more by crashes and inconsistency than by the dominance everyone expected, and only intensified once he started winning. Because once Gordon started winning, the aesthetic difference stopped being a curiosity and became something the sport's older guard found genuinely uncomfortable to watch. Gordon did something almost no driver before him had done with any real consistency. He said yes to the world outside the racetrack. He became one of the first NASCAR drivers to actively pursue mainstream media opportunities, talk shows, sitcom cameos, eventually hosting Saturday Night Live, a first for any NASCAR driver in the show's history. He later admitted he did it half out of genuine excitement and half out of pure terror, taking opportunities because they seemed like things he should not turn down, even when he had no idea yet who he actually was in front of a camera that wasn't pointed at a racetrack. This was, again, simply not what drivers like Earnhardt, Mark Martin, or Rusty Wallace did. Those men were racers first, public figures second, and seemed entirely content to keep it that way. Gordon blurred a line that NASCAR's older generation had never seriously questioned. He understood, earlier than almost anyone in the garage, that the sports audience could expand dramatically if its biggest star was willing to exist somewhere beyond the track. It worked. Gordon became the face that brought NASCAR into rooms it had never previously entered. Magazine covers, late-night couches, audiences who had never watched a stock car race in their lives but knew exactly who Jeff Gordon was. He became, in the words of people who covered his career for decades, the bridge between NASCAR's regional past and the national, even global, sport it would eventually become. No driver who came before him had built that bridge. Several after him would try to walk across it, and none would manage the crossing in quite the same way. For years, a significant portion of NASCAR's fan base simply could not stand him. The hostility had a specific engine behind it. Gordon was actively dethroning Dale Earnhardt, the sport's biggest and most beloved star, at the exact moment Earnhardt's generation expected to still be running the show. In 1995, at 24 years old, Gordon won his first championship with 7 wins, becoming the youngest champion of NASCAR's modern era. At the championship banquet that December, Earnhardt held up a glass of milk in a pointed, mocking toast to NASCAR's youngest title holder, a gesture that captured, in a single image, exactly how the sport's old guard felt about the kid in the rainbow car. Gordon won again in 1997, again in 1998, with a modern-era record 13 wins in a single season, again in 2001. 4 championships in 7 years, 58 wins by the time he turned 31. A run of dominance so complete that every team in the garage began actively searching for the next Jeff Gordon, a young marketable phenom who might replicate what he had done. The boos never fully disappeared, but something shifted as the years accumulated. Fans who had hated him purely because he was beating their guy slowly started recognizing what they were actually watching. Not a corporate product winning on superior equipment alone, but a driver who got out of his car after wins and confrontations alike and answered for himself, who raced Earnhardt door to door for the better part of a decade and never flinched, who turned out to have exactly the competitive toughness the sport's traditionalists claim to value most. He never stopped being the outsider. He simply became the outsider the sport eventually decided it could not live without. Gordon retired from full-time competition after the 2015 season, finishing his career third on NASCAR's all-time wins list with 93 victories, behind only Richard Petty and David Pearson, and holding the modern-era Ironman record with 797 consecutive starts. He did not disappear. He moved into the Fox broadcast booth as a race analyst, bringing the same camera-ready comfort that had made him a national figure 20 years earlier. He became vice chairman of Hendrick Motorsports, the organization that had taken the gamble on him as a 21-year-old nobody else in NASCAR fully understood. He won the Rolex 24 at Daytona in January 2017, becoming just the fourth driver in history to win both that race and the Daytona 500. Through the Jeff Gordon Children's Foundation, established in 1999, he has directed more than $22 million toward pediatric cancer research and treatment, a different kind of presence than the one built on lap times and championship trophies, but one that extended the same instinct that had always set him apart, an ease with existing in spaces the sport's older generation had never thought to occupy. NASCAR has spent 3 decades since Gordon's debut searching for drivers who might replicate what he built. Joey Logano, Kyle Larson, Connor Zilisch. Each one measured explicitly against a 21-year-old from Vallejo, California, who arrived at Atlanta Motor Speedway on the same afternoon Richard Petty retired and somehow managed to feel like neither the past nor quite like anyone who came after him either. That is the part of Gordon's aura that the record book cannot fully capture. 93 wins place him in the conversation with the sport's greatest drivers. But the specific quality that set him apart, the accent he never had, the khakis the garage joked about, the rainbow car, the television appearances nobody else was making, the booze that slowly turned into respect, was never really about the wins at all. It was about a driver who walked into NASCAR's most southern, most tradition-bound sport looking and sounding like he belonged somewhere else entirely, and made the entire garage adjust to him instead of the other way around. Nobody before him had done that. Nobody since has fully managed it either. This channel tells the stories of the moments that quietly redefined entire sports. The ones that look, decades later, like turning points, even when nobody in the room recognized it as one at the time. Subscribe, because Jeff Gordon walked into NASCAR looking like he didn't belong and left having changed what belonging even meant. 93 wins, 4 championships, one aura nobody has fully replicated since,